So one service we've had no shortage of coverage here on the channel for the Nintendo Switch is of course Nintendo Switch Online, as it is a constantly evolving subscription model business for Nintendo, and we have seen numerous iterations and changes over the course of the Switch's life cycle since it launched in 2017, initially just with things like online play, save cloud data, and the NES library of games, ultimately forming to what it is today, where we have the SNES, then the expansion pack came along, and we have N64 and Genesis, and most recently at the February Nintendo Direct, we got confirmation that the Game Boy family of systems are also supported on the service. And while I've personally been both positive and critical of the service over the course of time, my biggest concern and want from Nintendo is that we would roll this thing forward and not ever have to hit the reset button again with the library of classic games that we can play on future consoles. And in today's video, we have to go over a very interesting source that may have just fully revealed and confirmed that Nintendo not only already has plans to roll this thing forward to the next console, but may have a rough draft of it already working. And we have to go over all the details and break down what this means for the future of Nintendo Switch Online right now. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below. Hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. Now, as I mentioned, guys, today we are discussing Nintendo Switch Online and really the future of this service, with some potential great news that just emerged when we talk about things like the end of the Switch life cycle leading into what is next for Nintendo. We know that the Nintendo Switch at this point has completed just about in March 6 full years of being available on the marketplace, and it will start its 7th year of sales during that year. This is already a very long life cycle for a Nintendo console if you look at history. And one thing that I was always a fan of in consoles past was the virtual console support for an old library of Nintendo games, N64, SNES, NES, all being playable over the years, in addition to even Game Boy games on the Wii U and 3DS and DS. Essentially, since Nintendo has gotten into online services, they have gave us some kind of way to play some of the classic old games that we grew up with and have nostalgia for. And while I am typically not the biggest fan of subscription services out there, as you never really truly own what you purchase, you can make the argument that if you buy something as a one-time purchase on the virtual console store, and then one day those servers are discontinued and you can't re-download it anymore, it's kind of like you never owned it anyway. And it also becomes more of a hassle to go back and hook up your old consoles to play those classic library of games that you may have spent $10, $15, $20 on a piece just to be able to own them, and now they're not compatible with modern technology like HDMI ports and modern HD resolution, as the Nintendo Wii was actually a standard definition console. So I've personally lived through that, and I've always been concerned around, now that we have so much forward momentum with Nintendo Switch Online, that we would not have to worry about hitting the reset button. And when Nintendo reveals, whether it's the Nintendo Switch 2, new Nintendo Switch, or just some brand new from the ground up idea, that we won't have to hopefully be concerned around Nintendo saying something like, well, your Nintendo account transfers forward, you don't have to do all of that, because you do have that investor slide floating around that has been talked about and covered online for quite some time now. Essentially, a lot of people are already under the impression that Nintendo will for sure continue their online services into the next generation console. And while it does confirm that for the Nintendo account portion, we haven't really specifically ever seen them name drop Nintendo Switch Online, but rather we've seen them say value added services for the Nintendo account will roll forward into the future. And that's obviously a big advantage for Nintendo when they lead into the next console generation, because they have such a deep install base on the Switch already today, with over 122 plus million units sold. It makes a bunch of sense for them not to erase accounts and make people sign up from scratch, but roll them forward. And I definitely want to see that happen, as somebody who is now very excited with the library of games we have between NES, SNES, N64, Genesis, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance. It is now a very stacked subscription service, and you can argue that that $50 $40 annual price point for the expansion pack, or if you really want to be smart, join a family plan that supports up to 8 accounts for $80 annually. That looks like a much better price point now that we have multiple family of consoles getting new support and new games added in, albeit with the complaint that I've always had that we have no clear update roadmap schedule officially committed to from Nintendo, so we really don't know what to expect in terms of how frequently we will see new games, but we do know that we now have a plethora of different consoles that will continue to get updates as we roll forward. And the reason this is in the news today and being talked about is actually due to a little merger you may have heard of online known as the Activision Blizzard Microsoft acquisition, which is definitely officially the biggest merger ever in gaming history if it does go through, as it is facing numerous hurdles to get the thing cleared. All of the major regulators in all parts of the world are having to dive into this thing and approve it, and Microsoft has had no shortage of roadblocks with getting it through. FTC complaints, CMA reviews, you name it, but the CMA is actually the branch we will be discussing today, because there is a very interesting line in their public legal filings for the review of how Xbox will ultimately affect the cloud gaming market as we look to the future if this merger is indeed approved. And to get on the same page with what's been revealed here, let's quickly read through this post on Our Gaming Leaks and Rumors, where it details the following. The CMA might have leaked Nintendo Switch Online will also be available on the Switch successor. Page 9. Nintendo Switch Online has been excluded from our shares as Nintendo's cloud gaming service is very limited. Nintendo's cloud gaming service is only available on the Nintendo Switch device and redacted. 1. Nintendo Switch Online gives gamers access to online play and cloud saving amongst other features. 2. We therefore see Nintendo Switch Online as predominantly an online multiplayer service rather than a cloud gaming service. And the user who posted this details the following. The redacted most likely is referencing the successor to the Switch because no other console has it. It wouldn't surprise me because I expected it to carry over with how much they are investing on Nintendo accounts and overall integration, so I always thought on it carrying over to the next console in terms of accounts, as the only time you really lost stuff was going from the Wii U, 3DS to Switch, but with everything restructured on Switch, I expected this. So while we can't treat this like official confirmation that NSO 2.0 or whatever the future of the service looks like will run on the next console, I think that this really reveals all we need to know. The fact that they have Nintendo Switch Online is available on Nintendo Switch and redacted, where, clearly we don't have anything else that runs Nintendo Switch Online today. I don't think they're redacting the smartphone app capabilities and talking about that as a device. So whatever the plans for the service are in the future seem to already be underway for Nintendo, and that was a very big point to pull out of the article and not reveal, because if it said Nintendo Switch 2 or even next-gen hardware, we would clearly know Nintendo's plans is to roll the service forward, and I am a firm believer that that is what they are doing here. This is the one advantage to subscription services, is that they do have that multi-generational life available with basically just a 2.0 version coming out, instead of saying, well, the purchases you made on your last console can't roll forward because they were only tied to that console. A subscription service, Nintendo wants to keep us all actively paying a monthly or yearly fee as we roll forward, and it is a huge portion of their business now, so I don't expect to see this become an afterthought for them anytime soon, because it quite honestly just makes them too much money, and the logical progression for the service is just to continue to support more consoles and really turn it into somewhat of a Disney Plus for Nintendo titles, where everything Nintendo's ever created in terms of first-party games, and then additional support for third-party games when they pay those fees to get the games on the service, is really what it becomes. And one day in the far future, when we're talking about booting up our Nintendo Switch 2s or whatever is next, I think we do have the strong possibility to see systems like GameCube and Wii ultimately make it into the conversation. And if Nintendo gets super creative, they could create some kind of controller that allows you to play the entire DS and 3DS library of games. I think that that is ultimately what they want NSO to become, and this is just great news in my opinion, that it looks like all the writing on the wall is preparing our expectations for the service to clearly and easily roll forward to what is next. We already knew Nintendo account was going to do it, but I think this is yet another strong piece of evidence that NSO, the service at its core, will roll forward as well. And I just hope that when we're talking about Nintendo Switch Online 2.0 or whatever the next console brings with it, that we have things like party chat on system platform, no friend codes, let's use usernames like every other major online service. In a perfect world, they would just do Discord app integration on the console, and then let's build out some kind of trophies / achievement systems for people who like to chase those down. I am one of those. I would love to have that ability to play through Tears of the Kingdom and 100% get a platinum trophy or the biggest achievement for it. I would love to do that. I think Nintendo also has room in the service to add in some additional value by giving us previous generation games for the Switch, or even current generations for the Switch 2 or whatever it's called, at either a strongly discounted price or just free additional titles per month. Similar to how Sony does it with PlayStation Plus, they can do a lot of things with the service to really make it a no-brainer for every Nintendo Switch owner or Switch 2 owner to sign up day one and utilize it throughout the entire console's life cycle. And that is where I personally think Nintendo is headed, but we may see them make some interesting turns and twists along the way, as you can never expect anything 100% for sure from Nintendo until they announce it. But I really want to hear from you guys at this point in the video what you hope we see from the future of NSO as a whole. Do you think that this article is indicative of Nintendo's plans to bring it to Switch 2 or the successor to the Switch, and you think that that clearly is an indication that the redacted portion is talking about and referencing that console? Do you think it could be something else that we're not thinking of? And definitely share that with me in the comments below. And bonus question, what consoles that we don't have today and games that we don't have today on the service are you most wanting to see added in? Do you think we'll get things outside of GameCube and Wii like Dreamcast and other Sega integrations? And if so, which ones would you most want to see supported on the service? And lastly, let me know how you're feeling about the value and the price point of $50 a month for the expansion pack now that we have the Game Boy family of systems, and most notably the Game Boy Advance being sold along on that expansion pack tier. And are you somebody that pushed you over the edge to sign up for the first time or renew your subscription maybe? So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, which is on screen right now. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.